Hi guys, we're going to touch on expressions today, and we're going to actually get in deep into the core of Maya and do some node editing. I hope that hasn't scared you away, and none of this is terribly difficult. It will, however, save you some time if you apply these tools to your animations. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a cog, animate the cog without using any keyframe at all, just by using expressions. Before I get started, I just want to edit my shelf, because there's a few windows we're going to use today, and I want to make them easy to get to. So here's my shelf here at the top of Maya. Over on the left here, I'm going to go to New Shelf. I'm going to call this Shelf Expressions. I'm going to add some windows to my shelf. So I'm going to start with the expression editor. So under Window, go Animation Editors, Expression Editor, and I'm going to hold Control Shift or Command Shift to add the shortcut to it. The next window I'm going to use is the Node Editor. So under Window, Node Editor, and I'm also going to use the Set Driven Key. So under Animate, Set Driven Key, I'm going to hold again Control and Shift or Command and Shift and click. So now I've got my three windows all in my shelf. So the first thing I'm going to do is create this cog. So I'm going to create a poly primitive cylinder, hit the settings button and use a radius and height of 10 and a axis subdivisions of 20. I'm just going to click in the viewport. So there's my starting cylinder. I'm going to select every second face, and I'm going to do an extrude on this. So under Polygons menu, Edit Mesh Extrude, and I'm just going to extrude those faces out. Going to drop into the scale tool. I'm going to scale them, and I've just scaled them in a bit too to get a bit of a gradient on the edges there. You can do that in the extrude tool as well. So now that's complete, I'm just going to raise it above the ground plane so it sits right there, and I'm going to give it a name. So I'm just going to switch to the channel box, and I'm going to call it Cog1 Geo for Geometry. Delete its history and modify freezes transformations. So we want to get this to spin on its own using a expression driven animation. So right now we've got 24 frames in the range slider. So I'm going to up that to 360. So I've just entered in 360 down the bottom. And I'm just going to also save my scene. So I'm going to call it, let's just call it Cog for the moment. So now this is ready to spin. I just want to talk about how we're going to achieve this. So we're going to write an expression that tells Maya to spin this object 1 unit in the y-axis for every frame. So that'd take 360 frames to spin a full 360 degrees. So with the object selected, open your expression editor, and you want to give your expression a name. I'm going to call this Rotate 1. And my expression window is looking pretty empty. Just go up to the top here to select filter and make sure you've got that set to by object attribute name. And when you select your object, you should get all your attributes and your object name. So we want to animate this object called Cog1 Geo. And where do we want to animate it? In Rotate Y. And you'll see this under selected object and attribute. You'll see as you click the Rotate Y, you'll get that Rotate Y value pop up. So I'm just going to drag select that text, Control C to copy or Command C, and paste it into my actual expression editor. It's just a shortcut so we don't have to type it out. So now we've got Cog1 Geo Rotate Y. We've got to actually tell it what it's doing. So I'm going to tell it that Rotate Y equals frame. Now to end the expression, just put in a semicolon and click the create button. So that should work. So let's go to the Maya transport, hit back and hit play. Just for your information, in the expression you could edit the value of that. So at the moment it's equals frame. I could put equals 10 times, put in an asterisk and edit my expression, and now it's spinning 10 times frame. So I'm just going to go back and delete that, keep it at equals frame, and click the edit button to edit my expression back to what it was. So I'm going to close the expression window now. So you've got this automatically animated cog. So now we're going to look at just doing some node connecting to further animate a duplicate of this cog. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I'm at frame 1, go Control or Command D and duplicate this cog. I'm going to switch to the top view to make sure my geometry lines up to where I want it. So now I've got that in place, I'm going to name that cog2 geo. So I'm just going to edit that name. I'm going to delete the history on it, and I'm going to freeze transformations on it. So what we're going to do now is tell Maya to create a connection between the rotate Y value of this cog and the rotate Y value of this cog. Select both your cogs and then open the node editor. And you'll see you'll have your two cog shape nodes. In the node editor, just click and drag them away. That's not what we're working with. What we want to work with is the cog1 geo node and the cog2 geo node. Also, we want to expand these nodes so we can see what we're doing. So there's this little expand node icon here. Click it twice and click the second one twice. So let's create this link. So we want to output information from cog1's rotate attribute to cog2 geo's input rotate attribute. So just click on that attributes connector, drag click to cog2's and release. I'm sure you can see there's actually a problem here. Cog2 and cog1 are spinning in the same positive value, which means the animation doesn't line up. So let's edit that. Let's open this node editor again. Let's move this over here. Let's delete the connection just by selecting it and clicking delete. Let's add another node to this to reverse that. So hold right click in the node editor and go create node. On the left hand panel you should have this section called utilities. And we're going to go down and find reverse. There it is there. So there's my reverse node. So I'm just going to stick that in the middle and I'm going to try making this connection. So we want to output from cog1. So click on the output, drag and click on the input of the reverse node. Now we're going to go output from the reverse node. You have to click on output and input of cog2 geo's rotate. So let's see if that worked. So we're going to click back and play. And now cog2 geo is spinning in a negative value and cog1 is spinning in a positive value. Alright, let's take this one step further. So I want the reverse node accessible. Now these unit conversion nodes, I'll just explain to you what they are. If you're plugging a rotate value into a scale value, actually let's say a rotate value into a translate value. The translate value might be operating in, say, my units by default, which is centimeters, but a rotate value isn't. It's not working in centimeters. It's just working in units, in straight units, rotate units. So Maya just automatically puts in that conversion node to convert two different types of information. So anyway, let's just delete this second conversion node. So we open up that connection there. What we're going to do is speed up the rotation of cog2 by adding a multiplier. So right click and go create node. Again, go to utilities. We want a multiply divide node. And just put that in there, just so you can make your connections. And we're going to go out of the reverse node into input 1 of the multiply divide. Then we're going to go out of the multiply divide into the rotate channel. So right now there'll be no change because we haven't edited the data in the multiply divide. You might notice in your channel box you've actually got that data available because it was the last node you selected. So what we did was we plugged into input 1 of the multiply divide node. Now we can't edit that because that's got an incoming connection. We just plugged into that. What we can do is edit input 2's y-axis. So I'm going to add a value of 10 there and hit play. And now you'll see that the cog2 is spinning at a original value based on cog1 times 10. Say you've closed your node editor and you want to bring up that whole series of connections you've created. So you want to select your objects, go window node editor. You want to go up to the top and click this little icon here, which is graph input and output connections relationship I created. So if you want to go and edit the value of the multiply divide, click on it and it will be the current node editable in the attribute editor. So I'm just going to go back and drop that value. See, I put that value up to 10 in the channel box. I'm just going to drop it here. So set that to 1. And now they should be spinning equally again. So I've just duplicated one of these cogs and flipped it up on its side, called it cog3, and deleted its history and freeze transformations on it. I'm going to make this one rotate using an expression again based on cog1. So rather than link it with nodes, we'll link it with an expression. So open the expression editor. So with cog3 geo selected, and we want to rotate x value, just going to paste that into the expression editor, and we want it to equal cog1 geo dot rotate y semicolon. Now just a hint here, you don't have to type rotate y, you can just type ry and click edit. In your case, click create. The reason I clicked edit is because I'd created this expression earlier. So that should work now. So I'm just going to hit back and play, and now all 3 cogs are rotating. Again, we've got an issue. This latest expression that's spinning cog3 based on cog1 is in the wrong value. It needs to be flipped into the negative value. So let's just stop that. With the expression still visible, just go in and add a negative to before cog1 geos rotate y. So and then just click edit, and now everything should be spinning the correct way. Okay, I'm going to take this one step further. We've got our 3 cogs rotating based on expressions and connected nodes. Let's get a little bit more control here by having a speed manipulator. So the first thing we'll do is select cog1, and we're going to add an attribute to this list of channels. So let's go modify, add attribute, and we're going to call it rotate speed with a capital S. Make sure your attribute's keyable, that your data type is on float, your attribute type is a scalar. We want a minimum value of -10, a maximum value of 10, and a default value of 0. And just click the add button. Now I actually already have one in this scene, so I'm going to call this rotate speed 1 and click the add button. So you'll notice in the channel box on cog1 you'll have another attribute at the bottom of the channel box. So now we're going to make that actually do something. So select cog1, open the expression editor, and we need to pull up that expression that we created at the very start of this tune. So we want to select filter by expression name, and it's the rotate 1 expression we're going to edit. So instead of cog1 geo rotate y equals frame, we're going to go cog1 geo dot rotate y equals rotate speed asterisk for times frame. So let's click edit and just check this. When you press play, nothing should happen. Alright, so close the expression editor. So in your channel box under your rotate speed channel, just up it to its maximum value of 10 and hit the play button, and you'll see it speeds up drastically. So 1 spins anti-clockwise and -1 spins clockwise. So now we can use a negative value to spin the whole rig clockwise and a positive value to go anti-clockwise.